I'm Joe from RTR, the water heater maintenance professionals in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Today we're looking at a tank that's about a 9-year-old tank, and we're going to look at how to properly maintain the tank to extend its life dramatically. Main points that one wants to address is to flush or drain and flush the tank to clean out the sediment, and to replace the sacrificial anode rod which protects the inside from corrosion. So this tank is about 9 years old. It's never been serviced before, so once we start doing our work on it, we'll probably find that the flushing will produce a lot of sediment coming out of the bottom, and removing the anode will most likely find that it's a pretty decayed state and would definitely need to be replaced. By doing so, we can extend the life dramatically of this tank and save ourselves lots of money from having to go through an expensive and possibly messy replacement. So without further ado, we'll start working on this tank. We'll start by draining it out, and we'll see what it looks like just by a simple draining, and then actually going into a little bit more detailed draining that as we recommend to be done. So the first thing one has to do is to make sure that you shut off the heater element. In the case of an electric one, you'd have to shut off the power for that tank, and then we'll start by draining it, making sure that the water is cooled before we do so, and drain it out so we don't scald ourselves, and then move on to the sacrificial anode. So the first step we want to do is to make sure that the tank is shut off, that we're not heating up the water anymore as we're going to be draining it out. So we take and we turn this to either the vacation or to off completely to ensure that there's no more heating. In the case of an electrical one, you'd have to cut off the electrical power supply. Then what we'll do is we'll shut off the water to the tank to ensure that we're not replacing it, and we're going to want to drain it out, so that'll make sure that we don't get a fresh water supply coming in. And then we'll just double check on the what's called the temperature and pressure relief valve here to make sure that it's functioning properly, but at the same time we'll relieve the internal pressure inside the tank. Oh, and there we can actually see a little bit of the sediment coming out of the tank right off the top. So now that the pressure is relieved, we can actually leave it in that position. So now the next step is we're going to drain the tank. We've installed a larger full port valve where the small valve was, and attached a garden hose to it to help drain out the water in a much quicker fashion. I'm going to put some into a bucket right now just so we can see if we get any additional sediment that comes out prior to our actual full port flushing. So we'll go on and start draining. There it is. So as you can see, the water's come out pretty clean. And this is even with a larger valve. But the secret is going to be actually flushing the tank, because just straight draining doesn't get very much sediment out. It gets a little bit out, mostly just whatever might be stuck inside the valve or stuck inside any little recess there. But otherwise you can see the water's coming out pretty clean. So I'm just going to continue this to drain out the rest of the water, and then we'll move on to the next step of flushing. As we allow the tank to drain, we're going to go ahead and remove the anode rod. On this particular type of tank, the anode rod is built into the hot water outlet. It's called the combination rod. So it makes it a little more difficult because you actually have to remove the hard line here and then remove the anode after that. Some other tanks come with a screw-in anode that gets placed directly into the tank in its own port. Those are a little easier to deal with because you don't have to worry about the water line disconnection. But in this case, to be able to remove this, we're going to cut the copper pipe here to be able to unscrew this coupling, and then hopefully remove the anode at that point in time. And there's our rod there, our pipe with the rod, and now we're going to have to try to remove that. Now this one's going to be a bit of a difficult one, I betcha, and probably going to take us a little while. So we're going to work on that. You can use a pipe wrench, you can use various equipment, but all in all it's usually pretty difficult to get. Alright, so now we've loosened off the combination anode rod, and we're going to pull it out and see what it looks like. So, here we go. Well, you can still see it still has some life left to it, but generally speaking, it would be considered in need of replacement by the manufacturer's recommendations. They have 3 different criteria they go by. One is that if 75% of the material is depleted, that it should be replaced. Another is if 1/3 of the core wire is exposed, then it should be replaced. And thirdly, if the overall diameter on average is less than 3/8 of an inch, then it should also be replaced. But again, this one's still functioning. It's a little scungy, so the point is when it gets dirtier, it doesn't produce the electrical circuit as well, and that's how it actually functions. But just in comparison, here is a brand new rod to show what the difference is between a used one and one that is brand new. So you can see that the new one has quite a bit of material on it, but this one's been doing its job and it's been working to protect that tank after 9 years. Now that we've got the anode rod out and we've got good access to be able to flush the tank from both the top and the bottom, we're going to go ahead and perform the flushing that will help to get rid of all that built up sediment at the bottom. So we'll open up the valve here, and I'm going to try spraying some down into the outlet for the anode, and we'll see what happens. Can you get in close on that, Mark, and see how black and filthy that water is that's coming out?
Yep.
So this is what the kind of stuff that's sitting at the bottom that regular flushing just doesn't get out. By just putting a garden hose on there, you really don't get any of this stuff out. You really got to get in there and move the stuff around that's mired in the very bottom of the tank, which is all pretty much below the actual outlet of the tank, the way they're built. You can see that water is absolutely disgusting coming out. Sometimes you even see chunks coming out, depending on the type of water you have and how long it's been since it's ever been cleaned and usage factors. But though the water is not quite as filthy anymore, you can see it's still not very clear. And there we can see the water is already starting to flow pretty clean. This tank's actually not too bad. We've seen ones that are much dirtier with big chunks, but this one's actually not too bad. I think it's going to pretty much do it for our flushing. And now that water's coming out pretty clean.
That's nice and clear.
Yeah. Alright, and that should do it for... Now, actually, once we clear out this water, you'll be able to see a lot of the sediment that's got left behind now inside the tray here. Now we'll let that drain out. But in the interim, I guess we can put the new rod back into place now. So while the water continues to drain from our flushing, we may as well go ahead and proceed to put the new sacrificial anode rod into place. Got a little Teflon tape on the ends there. Drop it into place and we'll tighten it down. Now we'll just have to connect up the copper fittings back to that, tighten this thing down securely, and that part of it will be good to go. Thank you for watching my video. I hope it provided you with important information on how water heater maintenance with Replace That Rod can help double or even triple the lifespan of your water heater. Not only will we help you save money in the long run, but it can help the environment by keeping one less tank out of the landfill. Replace That Rod not only extends the life, but will increase the efficiency and cleanliness of your tank. So remember to call Replace That Rod at the number below or from our website. Have a great day.